Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2, Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. Channeling divine power to execute the killer move, All Worlds as One, he unleashed thousands of spear attacks in a single breath, and the combined force put a great strain on himself. This move consumed about 1/10 of his divine power. Heijumo was well aware that if he were to withstand such an attack head-on, his godly body would definitely collapse. Yet, this unfamiliar eternal true god actually withstood it. I can't afford to wear him down. Heijumo's 3 heads grew colder in the eyes. To kill him, I must shatter his godly body in one fell swoop. There's only one way left, to use the forbidden move of the Black Sky Spear technique. I refuse to believe he can withstand that. Without hesitation, Heijumo executed the forbidden move of the Black Sky Spear technique, and at this moment, in Luo Feng's view, Heijumo's towering figure seemed to explode, with an immense surge of divine power boiling over. Heijumo instantly burned 50% of his godly body's power. A typical eternal true god unleashing such a mighty force would scatter it, struggling to control it. But Heijumo, using the immense divine power he set ablaze, executed the forbidden move of the Black Sky Spear technique. Black Sky Destruction. With an increasingly icy gaze, Heijumo swung his 8 spears. Incredible divine power poured into the 8 spears, and as they swung, their phantoms naturally converged into a black shadow as imposing as a pillar from the heavens, with Heijumo himself merging into that heavenly pillar-like shadow. The pillar-like black shadow came crashing down. The Black Sky Spear technique's forbidden move, Black Sky Destruction, was Heijumo's desperate move. If he couldn't kill his enemy with this move, he would escape with all his might without a second's hesitation. Impressive. Luo Feng watched the heavenly pillar-like black shadow, and in that moment, he felt the annihilation of all things, everything returning to primal chaos. His move already possesses a part of the primal chaos mindset. Invincible and lonely for too long, facing such a formidable opponent excited Luo Feng so much that his blood boiled. Luo Feng instantly wielded his knife to counter the heavenly pillar-like black shadow, and at the moment of contact, his body shook violently, boom. He could feel the power of the pillar-like black shadow instantly transmitting into his body, causing a massive explosion within. Even Luo Feng, with his perfect divine body, sensed the extraordinary force of this move, instantly obliterating a significant portion of his divine power. In mid-air, Luo Feng's body burst out with blinding light. Beneath the terrible explosion, shockwaves radiated in all directions, much more powerful than the aftershocks of All Worlds as One. The intense explosion ripped open many wounds on the surface of Luo Feng's body. Watching Luo Feng in mid-air, his body tattered with many wounds, Heijumo was stupefied. The godly body hasn't collapsed. Heijumo couldn't believe it. His forbidden move had consumed a full 50% of his divine power, and with the previous depletion, only 30% was left, leaving him much weakened and completely unable to launch another forbidden move. All of Luo Feng's wounds healed automatically as he looked at Heijumo. Do you have any stronger moves? The towering and mighty Heijumo's heart trembled, and he fled without the slightest hesitation. Buzz. He instantly turned into a shadowy figure, tearing through the night sky, fleeing towards the far distance. It will probably take a few more days for the blue-purple blood crystal flower to mature and fall. I'll go to Huyang City first to ask for help, Heijumo thought, escaping with all his might. The Sha Kingdom's branch in Huyang City still had many experts. With a numbers advantage, I believe we should be able to handle this strange eternal true god. Buzz tilde. With just a distant look in his eyes, Luo Feng released an invisible fluctuation that instantly swept over Heijumo. Amidst his escape, Heijumo vaguely saw an endless vortex of black mist enveloping him, the black mist vortex instantly swallowing his will. As an eternal true God, who had endured the ravages of endless years, his will was naturally very strong. But the devouring power of the black mist vortex was too terrifying. It had almost completely annihilated his will upon contact. Heijumo, while fleeing, materialized in mid-air, tracing a parabola out of inertia and crashing heavily onto the ground, as if he had fallen asleep. I was completely overpowered in close combat. Luo Feng took a step and arrived near Heijumo's body, looking at the mountain-like frame. It was only with the secret technique of willpower from the 9 netherworlds that I managed to take him down. This move was precisely the nightmare of the 9 netherworlds, a secret technique of willpower from the 9 netherworlds. In order to help the primordial ancestor, Luo Feng had also cultivated the 9 netherworlds to the eternal true God level. It was a complete legacy primarily focused on illusion techniques, and also contained 3 secret techniques of willpower. In terms of sophistication, the 3 secret techniques of willpower associated with the 9 netherworlds were rather ordinary and couldn't compare to the Lai Yuan technique. But with his terrifying will at the pinnacle of primal chaos, the seemingly ordinary nightmare of the 9 netherworlds still became very fearsome. The fact that I was forced to use a secret technique of willpower is enough for you to take pride in. Luo Feng swung the blood shadow knife in his hand, and the dim shadow of the blade pierced through Heijumo's defenseless body, stabbing into Heijumo's true god's heart. One strike, destroying the true god's heart. Heijumo, in his days, was already dead. A star in the night sky dimmed, a sign that Heijumo's small cosmos, deep in the night sky, was collapsing. In the night sky, stars shone brilliantly, countless stars twinkled, either dimming and collapsing or shining brightly. Every time a star dimmed, it signified the death of a creature. For the vast land of origin, the death of an eternal true God was like a small wave in the ocean, barely noticeable. This battle was truly not easy. Luo Feng touched his face. Having been roughed up not too long ago, his face took quite a few hits. My close combat is indeed very weak. From beginning to end, he had relied solely on the perfect divine body to withstand attacks. Body refining secret technique. Protective secret technique. Blade technique. Movement technique. He kept using only the blade of life and death, knowing nothing else. Luo Feng spotted the unprotected blue-purple blood crystal flower at a glance. The scent of the blue-purple blood crystal flower, no longer concealed by Heijumo's power, began to spread rapidly. The blue-purple blood crystal flower. No wonder an eternal true God would fight so desperately for it. Luo Feng revealed a joyful expression. With a thought, his invisible power instantly enveloped the area, perfectly concealing the scent of the blue-purple blood crystal flower. He concealed his aura far better than Heijumo, absolutely leaving no trace of flaws. Even as Luo Feng concealed the surroundings, he completely obscured the vast area where the battle had taken place. Even if a true god passed by, they would notice nothing amiss. Swoosh! The honest Morosa flew over from the distance, landing next to Luo Feng, and clicked his tongue in amazement as he looked at Heijumo's corpse. Master, you've used the secret technique of willpower again. When you were dealing with me initially, it was this technique you employed. Willpower is also a part of my strength, Luo Feng said. That battle just now was totally one-sided, Morosa remarked with emotion. Luo Feng glanced at him. Morosa immediately covered his mouth. Then he greedily eyed the array of weapons and treasures left by Heijumo. This 8-armed eternal true god had quite a few weapons. If you want them, take them yourself, Luo Feng said. 2 spears are enough for me, Morosa said right away, summoning 2 black spears into his hands. He twirled the spears, his face filled with joy. At his level, weaker weapons were not as robust as his body. And eternal level weapons weren't so easy to come by. Morosa didn't have a single weapon that suited him up until now. With weapons, my strength will at least double, Morosa said gleefully. Just 2 spears are enough? Luo Feng asked. Yes, that's enough, Morosa replied. Once you're in Huyang City, you'll need some spending money. Luo Feng tossed a black-green jade vial to Morosa. After receiving it and taking a brief look, Morosa saw that the black-green jade vial contained more than 100 grains of sand, each with an embryonic universe within. There were also neatly cut primal chaos crystals and several piles of colorful stones. So these are the cosmic sand, primal chaos crystals, and primal chaos stones. 122 grains of cosmic sand, 30,000 primal chaos crystals, and a large amount of primal chaos stones, Morosa said curiously, very pleased. According to the currency exchange ratio of the land of origin, 1 grain of cosmic sand is equivalent to 10,000 primal chaos crystals, and even more valuable than 100 million primal chaos stones. Cosmic sand had become the highest currency denomination. How come he didn't have a single piece of armor? Morosa wondered aloud. Armor is much more expensive than spears, Luo Feng explained. His wealth was mainly spent on weapons and inheritance. The 8 spears alone are worth 8,000 grains of cosmic sand. Eternal true god level armor, whether in terms of forging difficulty, or the materials required, is far superior to weapons of the same level. Master, can I have his corpse? Morosa asked, eyeing Heijuomo's massive corpse with covetousness. He loved to devour small universes, but he also relished the corpses of super-strong beings. As long as he consumed enough energy, he could continue to grow. Wait until I'm done studying it, then it's yours. Luo Feng gathered all the spoils of war first. The spoils left by Heijuomo were quite decent. The 8 spears were about 8,000 grains of cosmic sand in value. The 19 Blackwater cones were also around 2,000 grains of cosmic sand, plus some cosmic sand he carried, piles of exotic beast materials, among others, totaling an estimated 15,000 cosmic sand in value, which Luo Feng also shared part of with Morosa. In the land of origin, bloodline cultivation methods are typical, Luo Feng said, studying the corpse for a moment. The bloodline inside this corpse is indeed very powerful. However, relying on the bloodline will only take you to the primal chaos overlord level at most. Luo Feng was aware of this as well. According to records from his master, Mountain Sitting Guest, and the Duandong River lineage, nearly half of the primal chaos overlords from land of origin had reached their positions through bloodline cultivation methods, while the other half had comprehended the primal chaos laws. And godly kings? Not a single one depended on bloodlines. I'll give you the corpse, Luo Feng said, glancing at Morosa. Hurry up and get into Star Tower. Yes. Morosa excitedly collected the massive corpse, subsequently getting absorbed into Star Tower to enjoy his feast to his heart's content. The most delicious food I've had since I was born. See a thnovelfire.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Within one of the floors of Star Tower, Morosa drooled at the sight of the huge corpse in front of him and began to greedily absorb it. The corpse's immense divine power was continuously drawn into Morosa. Outside, Luo Feng was sitting cross-legged next to the blue-purple blood crystal flower, quietly waiting. The bloom of this blue-purple blood crystal flower lasts only 10 days in total, probably not many days left. Luo Feng was in a good mood, as the value of this blue-purple blood crystal flower was much higher compared to the treasures left by the deceased Heijuomo. Within Huyang City, a towering pavilion named Sky Cloud Tower soared into the clouds. At the very top of Sky Cloud Tower, Chairman Zonyun sat alone, gazing at the partially obscured view of the cityscape amidst the clouds. Chairman Zonyun's expression changed slightly as he took out an octagonal token. Through it, he could sense the other 12 eternal true gods from the Sha Kingdom's branch in Huyang City. At that moment, he lost the signal from one of them. The token, bestowed by the Marquis, could sense others within the range of the land of origin. Generally, a loss of signal indicated death. Hei Duomo is dead. Chairman Zonyun was shocked. He died before he even reached Huyang City. Chairman Zonyun pondered, where he died and why, I have no idea. This must be reported immediately. He dared not hesitate. With a thought, a small cosmos descended. Clouds swirled around Sky Cloud Tower, naturally concealing the entire top floor. When eternal true gods invoke a thought generates the universe, most do so without stirring a ripple, even merging the descending cosmic scene naturally into the heavens and earth, thereby completely controlling the surrounding area. Without delay, Chairman Zonyun rose, giving reverence as he employed a secret technique. A speck of blood-red flame spontaneously sprang into existence, exuding an aura of disaster and darkness. Marquis, Chairman Zonyun said with respect, just now, my transmission token lost all contact with Hei Duomo. His life token has shattered, he's indeed dead. The blood-red flame slowly emitted a disaster's aura, he died right after arriving at Huyang City. Was it an expert sent by Yu Kingdom? Or one sent by the Marquis of Zhujiang? Shi Kingdom eyed the surrounding divine kingdoms predatorily, so naturally, its relations with Yu Kingdom were poor, and the covert conflicts never cease. The death of a subordinate was quite normal. He had not yet reached Huyang City. Chairman Zonyun explained immediately. Oh? The blood-red flame questioned, he should have arrived. Hei Duomo should have arrived, today being the deadline. Chairman Zonyun respectfully said, just today, I had contacted and urged him. Yet, he said he would need to delay a few days before arriving. He mentioned nothing else. The voice from the blood-red flame spoke. Since he said he could arrive after a few days' delay, he must still be in Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture's territory. Pay attention and find out how exactly he died. Yes. Chairman Zonyun said respectfully, Marquis, I'm somewhat short on experts on my end. Soon, you won't be lacking. The blood-red flame then vanished. Chairman Zonyun let out a sigh of relief. Hei Duomo, that fool, lost his life just trying to travel. After reporting, Chairman Zonyun settled back leisurely. The one who could kill him must be extraordinarily powerful. I certainly don't have the ability to investigate. The Marquis most likely won't blame me. Serving a primal chaos overlord, even coming to the territory of another country, taking such risks, Chairman Zonyun naturally wanted to reap huge benefits. As for putting his life on the line, if he could avoid it, he would. Behind the death of Hei Duomo, one could tell there was a great expert involved. Chairman Zonyun had no intention of investigating. If one were to always rush headlong into danger, Chairman Zonyun wouldn't have lived so long. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Under the night sky. Luo Feng sat cross-legged next to that blue-purple blood crystal flower. That captured flying boat could be released after the blue-purple blood crystal flower was harvested. No rush. Arriving in the land of origin for the first time, and having an altercation with a native eternal true god truly revealed many of my deficiencies, Luo Feng mused. I've just become an eternal true god, and I haven't even begun cultivating many secret techniques. In this recent encounter, he was utterly outmatched in close combat. It was only by relying on his perfect divine body that he withstood all the attacks. If I encounter someone adept at trapping their foes, they might capture me in a few moves. Then, I'd have to count on the secret technique of willpower, or rely on a mechanical stream secret treasure. Luo Feng thought, in the long run, my opponents are likely to be on the level of 3 sovereigns of Shi Kingdom. So, I still need to increase my strong points, practice the Lai Yuan technique, and elevate my willpower to a higher level. At the same time, advancing my major realm is crucial. I must find a way to break through to the primal chaos lord realm. To become a primal chaos overlord, I must comprehend the primal chaos laws, Luo Feng thought. On one hand, I need an active understanding of the primal chaos laws, and on the other hand, learning some secret techniques related to the primal chaos laws. He aimed to experience the basic mysteries of the primal chaos laws in practice. Combining practice and theory is the faster way to master the primal chaos laws. My chosen body refining secret techniques, primal chaos great strength diagram, and world-breaking 9 blades, both lead towards the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng had plenty of secret techniques, although he was somewhat poor. For the foreseeable future, I shall mainly cultivate primal chaos great strength diagram, and world-breaking 9 blades as well as Lai Yuan technique, and I will also practice Duan Mie, Dong Hua, and 9 netherworlds. From the perspective of self-growth, he decided on his primary and secondary Dharma practices. The 3 great inheritances of Duan Dong River lineage were beneficial, but all were auxiliary, designed to make generations of inheritors better at saving their own lives. As for resources, inheritors had to fight for them themselves. This primal chaos great strength diagram requires treating the godly body as a secret treasure during cultivation, demanding vast resources. I wonder how long this blue-purple blood crystal flower will suffice for my cultivation, Luo Feng pondered. The key to the godly body is the true God's heart. As long as one protects the true God's heart from harm, they may refine the godly body as they please. S.Ea the novelfire.net ** website, on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Thus, generation after generation of powerhouses in the land of origin created various body refinement secret techniques. Without a doubt, the stronger the godly body's foundation, the better the effects of practicing body refinement secret techniques. Luo Feng, with his perfect divine body, naturally chose body refinement secret techniques to make his godly body even stronger. The resources needed for the body refinement secret techniques, I'll be able to purchase them after arriving at Huyang City, Luo Feng decided, then began to comprehend world-breaking 9 blades. Within one of the spaces in Star Tower, a flying boat resided here, and the clan leader along with a dozen true gods looked around this space perplexedly, sensing an endless expanse of grey at the edges of space, with time itself completely sealed off, utterly unable to leave. Clan leader, what exactly does the Supreme intend by capturing us here? Could they be considering us as test subjects? I've heard that many true gods in Huyang City went to test medicines. Could the Supreme be planning to use us to try out medicines? The true gods within the group speculated wildly, all feeling somewhat uneasy, given that they were completely powerless to resist. Suo Zi and Suo Yun, the 2 young true gods, also worried upon hearing the discussions of their older clan members. The clan leader laughed, if it weren't for the Supreme, we would all be dead by now. The Supreme has given us the grace of saving our lives. If there's anything he needs us to do, it would be our opportunity. In Huyang City, many true gods long for the chance to serve an eternal true god, but never have the chance. Having had dealings with eternal true gods, the clan leader was very clear that these lofty eternal true gods didn't care about those weaker than themselves. Since they had been saved, they would not take the trouble to kill them afterwards. Clan leader, what do we do now? Suo Zi asked. We wait patiently, replied the clan leader. Day and night cycled through their endless loop. A day on the land of origin was extremely long. Luo Feng spent 3 days cultivating next to the blue-purple blood crystal flower, and gained some insights into the world-breaking 9 blades, Lai Yuan technique, and Duan Mie. A day in the land of origin is very long, roughly equivalent to a year on my home planet Earth, thought Luo Feng. Now the sky was clear, with clouds drifting by and daylight shining. However, if one looked up, they could still see the few most brilliant stars twinkling in the sky. Suddenly, Luo Feng noticed the fragrance of the flower becoming richer, to the point that it even made his soul consciousness feel extremely pleased. He immediately turned to look, and saw the blue-purple blood crystal flower swaying gently, its petals appearing as if they were emitting light. It's finally about to ripen completely. Luo Feng smiled. After emitting the richest fragrance, the light from the blue-purple blood crystal flower finally subsided, becoming ordinary, and silently breaking off from the stem, falling towards the ground. With a gesture from Luo Feng, the blue-purple blood crystal flower was enveloped in divine power and floated in front of him. I've heard that this blue-purple blood crystal flower greatly aids the cultivation of bloodlines, admired Luo Feng. However, I'm not a native of the land of origin, and thus I cannot practice the bloodline cultivation method. The geniuses who came to the land of origin from the primordial cosmos could only comprehend the laws. Those born on the land of origin had various special bloodlines hidden in their bodies, qualifying them to enter the bloodline cultivation method. Luo Feng stored the blue-purple blood crystal flower in a wooden box. It's time to head to Huyang City. With a single step, Luo Feng traversed the void and left, also summoning Morosa and Mo Yu-hu to his side. Mo Yu-hu, continue to lead the way, said Luo Feng. Yes, Mo Yu-hu dared not ask any more questions. He glanced around in all directions and continued to lead the way. Luo Feng looked at Morosa beside him. You seem quite pleased with yourself. Big gains. There were indeed quite a few. Morosa revealed a look of joy and telepathically conveyed, Master, if such good fortune came 1,000 times over, I reckon I'd have hopes of reaching the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng glanced at him. Devouring 1,000 eternal true gods. What a daring thought. Better stick to absorbing the power of heaven and earth, Luo Feng said, no longer paying him any mind. The energy of the land of origin was so dense that it formed a mist, making absorbing the power of heaven and earth quite effective. Whoosh! After traversing the void for a long time, Luo Feng's eyes suddenly brightened. What's that? As a being with a perfect divine body, Luo Feng's observational range was extremely vast. He now saw an endlessly majestic city at the end of his flight path. This city was like the wall of the world, its walls higher than any mountain Luo Feng had seen since arriving in the land of origin. Compared to its height, the true body of Heijuamo was less than 1/10,000th of the height of the city wall. Under the covering mist formed by the power of heaven and earth, the majestic city appeared indistinct, making it impossible for Luo Feng to see the end of the walls. Although I've long known about the enormity of the land of origin's major city fortresses, seeing them with my own eyes is still shocking, thought Luo Feng. Supreme, we will soon arrive at Huyang City, Mo Yu-hu, who also saw the outline of Huyang City in the distance, said, in the entire Zhejiang Primal Chaos Prefecture, there are only 3 large cities. Each of these large cities is built upon the ruins of primal chaos, and is the result of the combined efforts of masters from the mechanical school, forming an incredibly stable fortress. As they approached, Mo Yu-hu pointed ahead, Supreme, the east city gate of Huyang City is ahead. Those 2 massive floating objects above the eastern city wall belong to 2 of Huyang's 10 great legions, the Vine Jiao Legion and the Golden Jade Legion. Luo Feng looked over and saw a vast mass of greenery floating above the southern side of Huyang City's wall, a huge plant teeming with branches and vines through which countless true gods were entering and exiting this colossal plant. On the northern side of the city wall, a giant golden octahedron floated, just as large, with countless true gods moving in and out along beams of light. A massive plant and a golden octahedron represented 2 of Huyang's 10 great legions. The Vine Jiao Legion, the Golden Jade Legion, Luo Feng sighed. Each legion wields a gigantic mechanical stream secret treasure. His own Showu wings was a mechanical stream secret treasure designed for individual use. The behemoths before him were mechanical stream secret treasures designed for legions. In terms of value, they were worth far more, requiring massive numbers of true gods to operate. Moryu Hu explained, each of Huyang's 10 great legions is led by an eternal true god, commanding many true gods of void space, and countless other true gods. With the aid of gigantic mechanical treasures, their combined strength even possesses a portion of the power that belongs to the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng nodded. His Showu wings allowed him to control primal chaos to some extent. In terms of power, it was indeed much weaker than the Legion-class treasures. Even the most ordinary soldiers in Huyang's 10 great legions are at least at the 9th realm of true god, Moryu Hu remarked with emotion. The 10 great legions, together with the Huyang guards, naturally deter all within Huyang city. Luo Feng nodded slightly, then with a wave of his hand, he released the flying boat he had saved earlier, as well as the tribal clan leader and more than 10 true gods. As the clan leader and the true gods looked around and saw the towering grandeur of Huyang city in the distance, they bowed respectfully one after another. We pay our respects to the Supreme. Ahead lies Huyang City, Luo Feng said. I take it your destination is Huyang City, right? Before he rescued them, Luo Feng saw them, and heard their conversation, clearly understanding that this tribal group was indeed heading for Huyang City. Yes, we were indeed planning to come to Huyang City. We thank the Supreme for saving our lives, the clan leader said. Let us part ways here. Luo Feng nodded, then immediately flew with Morosa and Moryu Hu directly toward the boundless and imposing east city gate of Huyang City. The clan leader and the other true gods of his tribe stood still, somewhat astonished. I thought we were going to be taken as experimental subjects. I was already prepared to be a test patient. They were all pleasantly surprised. Who wouldn't prefer freedom over being controlled? The clan leader, looking at his kin, laughed and said, we are fortunate this time to have encountered the Supreme. After entering the city, we shall first help Suo Zi and Suo Yun apply for a residence. Then we'll acquire the items our tribe needs and must leave before nightfall. Non-citizens of the city must leave before nightfall. A day in the land of origin is equivalent to about a year on Earth, so there is plenty of time for shopping. Yes, the tribespeople all responded. Suo Zi, Suo Yun, after settling in Huyang City, the city owner's mansion will collect 1 primal chaos crystal per era, and some dark forces will also charge about the same amount, the clan leader continued. Once you become true gods of void space, the city owner's mansion's fee can be waived. See a THOverfire.et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. True gods of void space, eternal true gods, and those above are exempt from residence fees in any city, because they are the backbone of a great city's operations. After becoming true gods of void space, will those dark forces still demand benefits? Suo Zi asked. They will demand even more, said the clan leader. The longer you stay in the city, the clearer it will become that the city's governance isn't completely dictated by the city owner's mansion. Suo Zi and Suo Yun listened obediently. Enter the city, commanded the clan leader. They immediately boarded their flying boat and flew together toward the east city gate. The east city gate of Huyang City was towering and wide, accommodating a vast number of true gods coming and going simultaneously. There are so many cultivators from the myriad clans entering and leaving Huyang City every day, Luo Feng commented with great interest as he flew. Observing everything in one of the land of origin's large cities for the first time, Luo Feng found everything to be novel. There are even those walking. Morosa exclaimed in surprise, looking down below, where, in addition to a large number of flying boats, there were multitudes of true gods entering the city on foot. Not everyone can afford a flying boat, said Luo Feng. The spatial pressure on the land of origin is extremely strong, and true gods typically are only about 1 blade tall. Being taller would exert excessive pressure on their skeletal structure. Under such dire pressure, true gods could not fly on their own and required flying treasures. Only after reaching the void true god realm and mastering the void could one fly independently. What's that? Luo Feng looked into the distance. There, a dark cyan winged dragon was also flying toward the east city gate. Among the multitude of flying boats around, this dark cyan winged dragon was indeed conspicuous, and its aura quite formidable. That's a mechanical flow treasure, Kai winged dragon operated by an elite squad of the Huyang Legion, Mo Yu Hu. Having lived for many years in Huyang, was familiar, and said with a smile, the Kai winged dragon requires over 100 true gods of void space to operate it. And it demands an extremely high will from the squadron leader. With the Kai winged dragon, they can even contend against an eternal true god, and are extremely adept at swift flying. Luo Feng nodded in understanding. The military might of Yu Kingdom was indeed strong. Wherever the Kai winged dragon flew, nearby flying boats naturally kept their distance. Anyone who stayed in Huyang City long enough knew the extraordinary origins of this Kai winged dragon. Inside the Kai winged dragon, a robust woman in armor was being escorted, crowned with 4 purple horns that resembled a tiara, her purple eyes burning with purple flames. Those who had lived long in Huyang could recognize her as a member of one of Huyang City's top families, the Moli clan, based on her appearance. Finally back in Huyang City, a woman with a fluffy tail sighed alongside her. Out in the wilderness, I'm always worried about being attacked by powerful exotic beasts. Huyang City is so much more reassuring. Dior Rong, with senior brother Gao Wu here, what's there to be afraid of? The robust woman said, looking over to a figure not far away. The figure, sculpted as if from metal, appeared quite ordinary, but his formidable reputation had already begun to spread. As the favorite disciple of Mo Li Xiao, the supreme commander of the Huyang Legion, Gao Wu Shui had achieved the tenfold realm of true god of void space at a young age. Given his profound accumulation, everyone believed he could become an eternal true god at any moment. In the wilderness, one cannot afford to be complacent, Gao Wu Shui, who seemed cold but was actually mild-mannered, said. One must always be cautious and alert. Otherwise, by the time you fall into a trap set by an eternal exotic beast, it's too late to escape. There's never been a mistake with senior brother Gao Wu leading the team, the robust woman said, clearly trusting senior brother Gao Wu immensely. Sister Feiyun, I know just how formidable your senior brother Gao Wu is, the fuzzy-tailed woman said teasingly. Gao Wu Shui suddenly started, and looked outside. Commanding the mechanical stream treasure Kai winged dragon, his will was also the will of the entire Kai winged dragon. With the help of the Kai winged dragon, his senses were extremely sharp. He could detect the presence of eternal exotic beasts from far away while in the wilderness. At this moment, he sensed the presence of Luo Feng not far away. Luo Feng, moving about with the power of an eternal true god, naturally did not conceal his aura to the point of absolute perfection. Instead, like a normal eternal true god, he let out a slight hint of his presence. As for Morosa, he had disguised himself to appear as a true god of void space level, quite inconspicuous. Senior brother Gao Wu, what's wrong? The robust woman and the fuzzy-tailed woman both turned to Gao Wu Shui. There is a stranger, who is an eternal true god, Gao Wu Shui said seriously, as he looked at Luo Feng flying towards the east city gate in the distance. It's that man with the dark golden horns. A strange eternal true god. The two women's expressions changed slightly, looking into the distance. They were well aware that in Huyang City, no matter how profound one's family background was, it was ultimately the terrifying eternal true gods who decided the order of the city. One must be perceptive, otherwise, inadvertently provoking an eternal true God might result in a silent death. Even the city owner's mansion would find it difficult to identify the murderer. Officials were unwilling to probe too much into matters involving eternal true gods, because the highest level of martial power in Huyang City was at the eternal true God level. Among the three major cities of Zhejiang Primal Chaos Prefecture, our Huyang City has the most number of eternal true gods, Gao Wu Shui said solemnly. And today, one more has been added. Zhejiang City is the place where Marquis Zhejiang resides. Most eternal true gods do not like to cultivate and live under the watchful eye of the primal chaos overlord. After all, it's not pleasant to have a terrifying being looming over your head, the fuzzy-tailed woman said with a laugh. Huyang City, as a bustling trade city, attracts powerful individuals from various countries and forces, and so we have a larger number of eternal true gods. As the offspring of major clans, they strutted around inside Huyang City. But what they feared the most were the strange eternal true gods. Strange signified the unknown. One might just be passing through Huyang City, casually slaughter a few major clan offspring, and then leave. There would be no way to trace them. Luo Feng, Morosa, and Mo Yu who had already entered the city and were flying within the city. What a huge city, Morosa commented as they entered the city. At a glance, he felt the clouds and mist in the distance were endless with mountains undulating and towering buildings even larger than the mountains. Luo Feng, however, was sensing the flow of the city's aura and nodded. The great formation of Huyang City is operational, creating a spatial separation. To enter or leave the city, one must go through the city gates. The high skies above are sealed off. Morosa looked up at the high sky and nodded. The spatial seal is quite strong. Within the whole of Huyang City, one can no longer traverse through the void. Inside Huyang City, we can only fly slowly and cannot traverse through the void. That's why if someone commits a crime and causes trouble, they can't escape quickly and are easily caught by the Huyang guards. Inside Huyang City, we have to fly slowly, but the Huyang guards and Huyang's 10 great legions can traverse through the void, Mo Yu Hu also said. Luo Feng grinned. It might sound frightening, but eternal true gods, who could create universes in a thought, had their ways to cope. Mo Yu Hu, do you know where one can purchase housing? Luo Feng inquired. I'll show you the way, Mo Yu Hu exclaimed excitedly. Having managed to return to Huyang City alive with the treasures, his mood was extremely delightful. Whoosh! Unable to traverse through the void, Luo Feng and the others flew for a while before arriving at a grand and towering palace. This palace was divided into 3 levels, covering a vast area. At the entrance of the first-level palace, numerous true gods were coming and going. Only a few figures could be seen entering and exiting the second-level palace, while the top layer was entirely silent. In Huyang City, all purchases of residences are handled in this Primal Chaos Hall, Mo Yu Hu explained. The first floor of the Primal Chaos Hall is for serving true gods. True gods can apply for a residence for free, but must pay a living fee of 1 Primal Chaos crystal each era. Luo Feng nodded. Huyang City was vast, and providing each true god with a small cave mansion was quite easy. The cumulative income from the numerous true gods paying 1 Primal Chaos crystal each era was substantial. The fees collected by the city owner's mansion were partly to maintain the operation of the entire city, such as supporting the 10 great legions, the Huyang guards, maintaining numerous officials, and formation upkeep. Other parts were tributes to the Marquis of Zhejiang and the Monarch of Yu Country. The Monarch of Yu Country, high and mighty, acquired a massive amount of resources, many of which originated from the countless true gods. The second floor of the Primal Chaos Hall is for serving true gods of void space level, who must purchase their residences, Mo Yu Hu continued. The third floor of the Primal Chaos Hall is for serving eternal true gods, Mo Yu Hu added. Luo Feng nodded and led Morosa and Moyu Hu directly towards the palace's top third floor. The third floor of the Primal Chaos Hall was majestic and spacious. As the three figures of Luo Feng, Morosa, and Moyu Hu flew inside, two officials immediately appeared. Their gaze was fervent as they looked at Luo Feng, and their demeanor was highly respectful. "We greet the divine monarch," the two officials said cordially. To the officials, Morosa, perfectly concealing his aura, and Moyu Hu, seemed to be just two servants of the eternal true God. "I plan to stay in Huyang City for a while and need a place to stay," Luo Feng stated. This video will end here.